My name's Dom. Once again, I'm joined by Rusty and Raz, and it's time to get back to the game. We got to find out who is going to close out this series, who is going to take game number 3. Is it going to be Dan? Are they going to take their first win?
Is it?
Is it going to be Dan? Dom, what do you think? I feel like you're the most emotionally invested in this. I have to keep pressuring you. I know you want us to get you out of there and say, I think Dan's going to be able to take. No, they're not.
Okay.
That's the answer, Dom.
I don't know. He asked you for an answer and an answer.
Say, yeah. So I take it Dan aren't winning that?
I mean, obviously, there's still a set to go into, another game to go into.
I'm confused.
We just saw game number 2.
The reason why, and this is a good question, because even though Goong had an outstanding performance in the last game, and we got to see Dan that can pressure from the early game and move that into like mid-game pressure, Choo-Choo had a great game, sure. But Newbie's been on a roll, and they've been on a consistent roll. They've actually been, I would say, in the cross-conference, the most consistent team thus far, being able to take down teams like WE, Snake and IG in fantastic fashion. They are a team that can adapt as well. So looking past at this last game, I think they're going to take a second look at that top lane matchup. The Rumble is something that they've been giving to Sky pretty comfortably, but he didn't have that much of an impact to be able to deal with the Gnar really early on. And I think that has to change, whether it be give him a different matchup or whether it just be to play towards that Rumble matchup. I think that's what's going to happen, essentially.
I mean, to be fair, they played Gnar in game number 1, Newbie, as well, right? Like, it looked fine when he was playing the Gnar, and then they just swapped roles this time around. And that, to me, is the blue side, red side problem, where it feels like Gnar is not the number 1 priority, Rumble is, and then Gnar just seems to be the number 1 answer to it in terms of what they're going to pick. So that's usually our top lane matchup, where I think, the Sky played well. I almost called him the Sky. Everyone's the something apparently today.
The Duke, the Sky, the
Sky
Rusty.
Sky was fine.
Yeah.
It's just that the rest of the map was also losing around it, and then Sky can't have an impact then anyway, right? Like, he's not the engage, he's the follow-up, and he needs to have something in front of him to be successful.
Yeah, generally I like the Rumble pick, especially when IG is using it, because they can play to it incredibly early. They recognize that Rumble's going to have them push. But in this set, it feels like the Rumble's left to his own devices, and they just move away from it.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how that top lane ends up working out. Raz, we're coming back to you. It's pick and ban, game number 3. I asked you in the beginning, and you gave me at least a little bit of an answer. Is it true? Are you still rooting for Newbie?
It's going to be a Newbie win, Dom.
Newbie win. We'll take that home, stick it in the bank, sit on it for a few years, let it invest into something proper and big. Well then. Thank you so much, Raz. And now that we have entered here into picks and bans, you can see Elise and Thresh banned away. Rakan banned away from Crisp. So Dan Gaming, they are target banning right now.
That's a valid ban. Thresh is gone, Rakan's now gone, and the dynamic between games 1, 2, and now in the 3rd has shifted drastically almost through the ban phase. Game 1 was junglers, Game 2 was AD carries, and now we're starting to diversify even further. Mm-hmm. Get some supports, AD carries, junglers, the whole kit and caboodle.
We'll see what the final one is going to be. We've still got that Talia open for Coco in the mid lane, but an Ivern ban away towards Swift.
Yeah, look, I don't understand that one.
I mean, I understand that he has played it before to great effect, but it has received a lot of nerfs.
Even if you play Ivern, why would you ban Ivern? From, oh my god.
And a Jace first pick for Newbie. All right.
I'm trying to think of something else that starts with I that they misclicked for. You know? Like, that's a thing. That's a thing that happened.
Yeah.
Jace is locked in. Like,
well,
Ivern's banned and Jace is locked in.
Yeah. An odd world indeed. Callista is the pickup for Choo-Choo on the opposite side. Very strong AD carry right now.
Yeah, funnily enough, I see the Callista pick, and it's good for Choo-Choo, and it's also partly taken away from LWX. But this time around, there is a Kog'Maw, and maybe that's why the Ivern is gone, is that like Dan have decided they've got an answer to Kog'Maw, and it involves a Callista and something. Mm-hmm. And Ivern is too much protection for a Kog'Maw?
I'm right there with you, bud.
Because that's the only thing that I could speculate, is that like, Newbie will go towards the Kog'Maw or the Twitch or something that's a hyper carry. Dan have to have an answer. There has to be something here. I reckon it's Blitzcrank.
We've got a few seconds to let that timer run out. Talia is the pickup for Goong in the mid lane. So he gets the chance to return. Braum looks to be the hover right now for Crisp. This is the first time this series we're going to see him on something other than Rakan because it has been target banned away from him.
Yeah, true.
And Braum is the pickup.
And they give him the Braum. They give him the tanky member of the team that's able to protect LWX. Also applies some crowd control for a Jace and a Kog'Maw, who are auto-attack based champions. Of course, yet to see the rest of the newbie roster. I would still say the current standing 3-man unit scales and has really nice bridging points to that scaling. Jace allows a Kog'Maw to hit late game.
Well, there's going to be a Bard dropping the hammer from the back. If he can find out where that Kog'Maw is, if he gets the opportunity to, Cat returns to that champion as Rumble is banned away from Sky.
Yeah, Rumble banned. Do we look towards the Nara as a higher priority here for Dan on the first rotation in pick phase number 2? Or Newbie maybe even threaten to take that one away, given that we're pivoting towards top laners? The Bard locked in by Cat, and I speculated perhaps a Blitzcrank, just someone that can remove a Kog'Maw from the map very quickly. Well, Bard has a lot of outplay, is a very individually intensive champion. Cat has to play incredibly well for this to work, but now he's also fragile. And he's against a Kog'Maw and a Jace as a fragile champion.
Yeah, final ban is Sejuani out of Dan Gaming. Maybe the Bard is to incentivize him to stand in the back, so that if he does step forward, he's going to die because he's squishy in the
If you're playing Bard and you're not hitting your stun, you're doing something wrong.
Well, sure,
right?
but it certainly has some range.
But if you're using your stun on someone that isn't a Kog'Maw, Kog'Maw's killing you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, it's still that risk.
Alrighty, well, forcing himself into the challenging situation. Let's see if he can rise to it, as Jarvan is now the pickup for Dan Gaming.
Ah, yes, your traditional Vayne top lane into the Jarvan counter pick.
The classic.
Of course, you can... No, I'm not going to go into it. We won't see it.
Can't even complete the thought.
No.
Maokai still is going to go through. It's locked in now. We'll see if that goes towards Swift once again, or if they swap it up top towards Sky. Actually, there's still a lot of flexibility here.
Jarvan is a flex. What you're looking at right now from Newbie is an abundance of flex, absolutely, as you're correct in saying that. Gragas is, funnily enough, a good pick into someone like a Jax, if that's the direction Dan wanted to go, but it appears that the Jarvan will be a top laner. But he's also now aware of the fact that he's into a Maokai. So Dan have the option of giving Lies a good matchup. Something like the Nara into the Maokai would be perfectly fine.
Still waiting it out, but Kha'Zix is the pickup for Karin, instead prioritizing the last pick jungle, as Kha'Zix versus Lee Sin is Swift versus Karin, and again, that Maokai versus Jarvan up top.
Yeah, both junglers getting last pick for their teams this time around. Kind of funny how this one's progressed again, with all of the jungle bans, and this time with a very limited amount of them. They hard prioritize getting themselves a good matchup. Kha'Zix picked into Lee Sin, however, also picked into the Kog'Maw and the Jace. There are still 3 carries on the side of Newbie that the lethality builders can pick apart. You've got your Jarvan for engage Bard. You'd say it's engage, it's disengage, it's all of the above as long as he's a good player. And Cat is a good player.
The flexibility to move it backwards and forwards depending on the situation. With that, the coaches shake hands for the final time. The next time these two teams will get a chance to play each other on stage is if they both end up into playoffs. That's a question that we've yet to see an answer for either of these teams, as no one has quite locked in their spot just yet. But it's Newbie versus Dan Gaming, the ace match, game number 3. And Dan, they've not taken a single series win in cross-conference after going 4-1 in intra-group. Can they rise to the challenge here, or will Newbie continue to set the bar and raise it higher and higher?
Really, your expectations lie with Newbie, saying that they should be the favorites, the hot favorites coming into this set, but we've gone to game 3 already, Dom.
Yeah.
Dan Gaming have shown up to play in this series. They've started with their main roster. They've secured a victory with their main roster, and that momentum is a scary place to find yourself on the back foot against if you're Newbie.
Yeah, that game 2 was very confident.
Certainly was, and of course the identity of Dan, the flavor that they bring about to a game of League of Legends is still there, and was very much a good thing to watch in game number 2 for the roster. Their draft is good at neutral objectives. I will just throw that one out there as well. Kha'Zix and a Kalista. Blade of the Ruined King, you've got your Ren stacks, your isolation damage. They're pretty set up. They're propped to do some neutrals.
Some good wave control with Jarvan and Talia, some mobility as well. Perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. In contrast, however, to their opponents, I'd say the wave control is a fairly matched thing. What I was alluding towards is maybe the advantages that they've got, but even a Kog'Maw is very good at doing an objective. And a lot of this, again, when you highlight Dan, you highlight their Baron power plays, you look at how they get to those Barons, and a lot of it's pick. And you've got a Kalista Bard to generate that pick, a Kha'Zix and a Jarvan, as well as Talia's Shove to once again catch out that single person who's mispositioned. And Swift does often find himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. However, he's a Lee Sin, and so sometimes it actually works out.
Yeah, great idea. Oh no, I'm being ganked. Just kidding. Flash kick. The old 1-2 turnaround. Have you ever done that?
Like once. Usually I die.
Okay.
But yeah.
Alrighty. It's a thing that could happen.
It certainly could.
But 90 seconds into this game, the junglers have been huge to watch over the course of this entire series. Lies gets a ward to spot the blue buff start from Swift as he's on the top side. We also see a blue buff start from Karin on the bottom side.
Sky not being a nice man, giving the saplings leash towards his jungler. And Swift wants to smash, wants to be okay in lane trading at level 1. Jarvan doesn't necessarily excel at wave control without having to use one of his primary combo tools in the flag and the drag. Usually the Q will be used to clear minions, and that means that Maokai should have a perfectly fine time in his lane, as long as he doesn't get poked out.
We'll have to keep an eye on that top lane as Karin, seeing the blue buff start from Swift, immediately races towards a double bluff. Blue straight to red because he doesn't want to take any chances that Swift is just going to follow up and steal it away. Though Swift is going very safe, yeah.
Game 1, Karin strikes again, but doesn't go for an early gank, doesn't go towards the Scuttle Crab level 3 towards the gank either. So he's not trying to accelerate a top lane, perhaps give an advantage to Lies. Everything just seems to be a full clear in the jungle, just with some extra respects paid by Karin going towards that red this early.
Swift currently thinking about making something happen bottom. There's a ward in river, but not one in try, and this wave is very big for Dan Gaming. It will passively push in.
It's a level 2 Braum, so he can always jump to a minion and then immediately auto-attack, get the stuns off, even if you have to flash auto-attack to secure it. There's kill threat whenever a Braum is in a lane, and as you mentioned, the state of the minion wave means that, Dan, they're respecting that fact.
Sitting very far back.
They're waiting. They're still... Oh, the patience.
Crisp is pulled up, and Lies now steps in. He uses the Scryers to spot out this side of the jungle. Just to try to look for him.
Amazingly enough, noticed that it was being done. The careful ping exactly where it was without wards to spot the Jarvan. Nice stun.
Crisp soaks some more of that harass with his Unbreakable just to keep him safe. But yeah, that is good presence from Newbie to keep track of Lies.
It certainly is. Swift is obsessed with this.
He wants it.
Oh, just get him, Cat. Just show him who's boss.
There are the pings. Finally, he's spotted out by Dan Gaming. Karin's immediately going to sneak his way into the jungle. Sky's Bloom, just misses him.
Karin still wants it. 1 level advantage in isolation.
Ooh, the immediate ward hop away from Swift. He knows the numbers. He does not want to risk it, especially now that Goong is being brought over as well.
So the battle commences. It looks like the Raptors are about to reset. They're just going to take the small little popcorn chickens.
Yeah, one at a time. They're cleared out. Oh, it leashed right into Swift. Karin's like, I set it all up so much, and then it ran away.
Neither of them have smite for the record.
There's the the isolation damage.
The real battle here is about who can control the other opponent, as Goong is well out of position trying to get back into his lane, and that's the trade-off. Karin, yes, he gets a good trade against Swift. He has a big advantage in experience, being 4-3, and will bully Lee Sin out of the jungle. But Jace has been mid most of this time. He's been pushing in the wave, and he's found himself in a pretty comfortable spot where Karin now has to assist slightly. And remember, the CS might still favor Goong. Well, it's pressuring into the turret right now, and Coco, great spot.
Catches the minion wave. He's nice and safe. Swift gets to clear his jungle some more. Take a look at Goong's summoner spells, actually. He went for Barrier this time to keep himself safe, while Coco did take that Ignite in the mid lane. Looking back towards the supports, it's finally an exhaust out of Newbie, but Dan Gaming still no exhaust on their side as Cat's going full aggro with that Ignite.
You go for Ignite. You want to kill the lane opponents, but no exhaust against a Kog'Maw once again. Not a bad thing by any means, just a style choice, but If that Kog'Maw ever gets free hits and you don't get an exhaust off, well, obviously you know that you're spelling your own doom. That's the risk that you take here by going for the Ignite. The barrier is a good call as well. Of course, there's nothing to cleanse. There's no real need to have the exhaust. The barrier is for good burst that is going to extend past an exhaust range, especially against a champion like Jace. He'll be able to Gate Shock Blast you, and he can actually poke you low, disengage, and then use the Gate Shock Blast outside of your exhaust range if you're feeling a bit cheeky.
It is Coco. He did go for the tier start once again and has a longsword. Not seeing the lethality rush, so a bit of time for Goong to play it safe. He's actually gone for the Lost Chapter once again, so not having to rush his Seeker's Arm Guard just yet. With our recalls completed from the junglers, Karin completes his Tracker's Knife. We do see the hammer out of Swift as he wants just a little bit faster clear.
Now, I've been impressed with Crisp so far in this series as well. I mean, he's been okay throughout the split, but this particular series has been an opportunity for him to come into his own as a player. Even in games where he's losing, he's still like a pretty solid response and to put into the roster. And that's something you look at with Newbie when they've got their alternating rosters is everyone in their respective role that gets alternated out. You have to be hungry to be the best, otherwise you won't get in, especially when it matters around the playoffs time. And so far, so good for Crisp. Which, by the way, is formerly P. Diddy, just because people are confused, I'm sure.
He did change his name, and now this play that we're seeing out of Newbie and Dan, a little bit slow here in game number 3. Swift is actually invading onto the blue buff while the wave was pushed in by Coco, so Karin just pulls it over to stall out the patience on it, buys enough time for Goong to clear the wave, and now they're grouped up for a potential 2v2.
The levels are equalized between junglers, so that slight early advantage is gone, but the items that are there for Swift, straight towards the AD. He's got Coco assisting. It's just going to keep resetting. We're having a dance.
Yeah, Chris gets pulled up one more time.
And they're gone.
And Newbie, looks like their patience bar has run out as well as they return back towards their own side of the map. Karin now will prep the blue buff for Goong.
The window of opportunity is gone.
Yeah, Newbie taking the initial play that time, taking the initiative.
Yeah, they had like a 2-wave, maybe 1-wave window to look towards, taking the blue buff or pressuring Karin off the blue buff. Coco had pushed mid, but then Goong just stays there and pushes it back. So we don't really see that progress into anything meaningful, but it is nice to see that initiative again. This is the game 1 style of play from Newbie that we saw them pressuring, mapping out their opponents, preventing Karin from ganking by simply knowing where he is.
And with that presence, we do see a slight CS advantage for both the top and bottom lane, as Laz will complete his second recall now. He's got his teleport ready along with Sky, and the Shock Blast. Not too much damage, luckily. But checking back into that top lane, it's close to even in CS. Didn't get to see it really explode one way or the other, though Lies is doing a pretty decent job of keeping it pushed in should he need to actually teleport. And he actually cancels his recall to reclaim that wave.
Yeah, of course, knowing that the Maokai has disappeared, he could choose to stay and poke a little bit more and just hard clear a wave to get a free reset. The need to teleport is something that you never want to have as a top laner. So right now he's going to walk back. It means that play is always possible. Yeah, it's a new brand of possible.
Yeah.
Down in the bottom lane, you've got a Talia, you've got the teleport from the Jarvan, the double wall comps, and a Kha'Zix who's missing on the map. So Newbie are respecting it, but that lingering presence and threat of the dive is just so scary for a Kog'Maw.
Absolutely. Maybe the Pasa is just another title, kind of like Mr. So it's Mr. Bill, Pasa Bill. Because it's a title, you know, like Mr. or Mrs.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to support you here, Rusty. I'm trying to get your back.
I was so far past it, and then we brought it back. It's worse.
Mountain Dragon being picked up by Dan Gaming. And, another Cloud Dragon. First it was 3, then it was 2, now it was 1 in game number 3.
Seems all we're getting are clouds and mountains, though. We're not getting a whole lot of anything else.
Karin thinking of making some action happen. The Tempered Fate knock-up along with the Weavered Wall, and it's stopped by the Unbreakable knock-up, but LWX is burning to the Ignite. Auto attacks from Choo Choo are not enough to clean up the kill.
And they managed to survive. Of course, the mobility of Elise in helps. Top lane, it's risky because he's trying to stop some recalls.
Ooh, Lies trying to trade with Sky here. He's healing up, but just getting a lot of damage traded back.
I think he dodged the Q there, actually. Sky does not flash, and that is a risky choice from the Maokai, but he's alive. He's all right. Dan, meanwhile, are threatening the bottom lane. They are actually going to take this one out as a first turret blood as well, and slowly that game starts to break open. This is exactly the combo that we said Newbie need to be afraid of. Even with Swift here, it doesn't mean they're able to stop that combo from being successful.
Immediately putting that Mountain Dragon to use. They forced the fight, and we are starting to see some damage out of Coco, but he just wasn't quite there for the fight in that bottom lane just yet.
No, not at all. So everything will subside with just the advantage to Dan Gaming, and that is a big advantage for them to have. They can choose to lane swap. It looks like they're not going to choose to do so, which is curious. I hope that the decision-making suddenly changes as they're halfway to lane.
They get halfway there before they realize, wait, I need to do something else.
Rift Herald is alive. There's no bottom lane turret to take.
Yeah.
There's no Drake to take. It makes sense to put most of your members towards the opposite side of the map to where they currently are.
Seems like they're staying down here. Cat's setting up a lot of deep
They've got to be
vision.
cheesing. There's no other way around this, but Kalissa's about to show herself, so...
The
You know
lane
what?
swap. It was expected by Newbie. They've sent LWX and Crisp top. They're actually pinging towards it now that they see that Kalista down there, and Sky stops walking towards the minions. He's going to hug forwards just a little bit to try to get within experience range.
Well, I mean, Jarvan warded the Rift Herald, so they're aware of the things that they have done.
The potential.
Yeah, and it's not that it's bad. What they've done isn't bad. It could be.
Okay.
It certainly could be. If the Rift Herald is taken, if top lane's pressured. Remember, this is a lot of free time where it's unsafe.
Oh, that's a lot of saplings.
It's unsafe for Dan to overexert themselves, but you can assume that, again, right now, there will be Elise in top lane. He's shown himself. Maokai's going to try and clear this 1v2, and Dan, they've hard committed to the second turret, to the inner turret bottom.
Yeah, they've sent Karin as well. He groups up with the team, and they break down the Tier 2. However, Newbie, they've traded for a top Tier 1. There's Sonic Wave onto that Rift Herald.
And that was the context where perhaps it wasn't bad for Dan. Of course, this is that positive trade that can come out, and they're not stopping, actually.
Looking for the inhibitor here.
Someone's got to help Sky.
Recall is pinged out onto Crisp. He's
It's
trying to
too
make his
late.
way back.
The turret's about to drop. LWX just got cancelled. He's at risk of dying to a Jarvan.
That's a 13-minute inhibitor, even using the Magic Journey to rotate towards the mid lane. Rift Herald, he's going to be finished off here. Shot to the final eye, cleans it up, and Swift will lock it down. But now it's 3 turrets to 1 for Dan Gaming.
And they need to get something from that Rift Herald now. It was done in vision. You can see that from Dan, knowing that Lee Sin's visible, and how long it's going to take to secure that Herald means they continue pushing bottom. Maokai shows the due respect and doesn't die, which could have resulted in more than just the turret going down. But right now, that is a big win from Dan Gaming in a situation where you're wondering, why have they stayed bottom, and why have they been bottom for that long? GG, Dan lose. Gung tilted, he's recalling. You're meant to be covering mid lane.
Blue buff passed over, yeah. Despite that, though,
Yes,
yeah, thank you so much.
That is a blue buff. He's coloured as well, believe it or not.
It is.
Yeah. He's got a ring around him.
Sweeps back towards the mid lane. Still, they got that inhibitor very early on. Goong, despite not having the blue buff, he's finished his Morellos. He's got his sword boots. He's able to get some damage onto a big target. Looking towards that level 11 for level 2 of the Weaver's Wall for extended range. And the AD carry of Choo Choo and Cat have now been swapped towards that mid lane.
And Newbie probably will respond with the same thing here in kind. Jace will be there for the moment. But there is an opportunity with the Duskblade purchase on Jace to try and find a pick around this as well. Item splacks and damage that'll be coming out of Coco will be very significant.
That much that you can't even complete the word.
Yeah,
the Duskblade of Drakthard, yeah. We'll keep an eye on the damage that he's going to be doing a little bit later on as Goong actually pulls back. He pushes the wave in and doesn't want to get caught out of position. As, like you predicted, Newbie swapped back towards the mid lane. Red buff picked up by Karin. Goong was...
I kind of hoped Gung took
I
that.
really was as well. I was kind of wondering.
Retribution.
You take my blue, I take your red.
No one wins.
Lies trading with Sky, the sapling. Oh, that's going to catch up to him, especially when he stops.
I don't think he's too concerned about sapling damage. It's level 1. Maokai is in lane will never max sapling.
Full tank mode.
It has super high base damage, and again, Maokai's will always go Twisted Advance and Cute, but
Coco on the flank finds Cat and Karin. A quick chunk, but he's able to heal himself up with another shrine. And now we've got 30 seconds for the Cloud Dragon to spawn. Newbie are grouped up in the mid lane. They've still got that Rift Herald on Swift.
Hard play to make against a Bard. Defending turrets is super easy for Bard to do if he's able to step up, but you see the makings of the burst that can come out of Coco right now. It's always going to be present, and now they bring him to this middle lane with a buff, with the ability to set up, and a Rift Herald sitting on Swift. You're expecting the summon to come across.
He crushes the eye. Rift Herald has been spawned. An immediate tempered fate as it spawns.
Why did he even do that? I'm confused.
Weaver's Wall separates Newbie as the turret is finished off.
This is one of those moments where Kat just types in all chat, well, now I know. I tried. It worked.
It does not, in fact, stop it. If he managed to catch it during the channel.
Oh, yeah. But then you have to just use your ult on Swift during the channel anyway to interrupt Swift. The Herald was there. I mean, we all learned a lesson today, didn't we?
Tempered Fate does not despawn Herald, which I think he was hoping for.
Mild shock, to quote Raz.
Karin on the invade is swapping towards the top side along with Cat and Goong. Meanwhile, Cloud Dragon has been picked up by Swift, so they're on the board with those Dragon objectives. We've got teleport available for both top laners. But finally, Coco and Crisp make their way up to the minion wave. Karin is thinking of flanking. The wave gets cleared out in time, and Dan make for the hills.
And Coco is starting to do so much damage that they're just going to respect it and back away. Lots of pressure on the turret and good proactive movements coming out of the Dan roster. But all of these movements have not really cemented themselves a lead that you would say is by any means big enough. They've still got the Cogmore there. Jace, right now, if a team fight was to happen, would have enough damage to once again be able to carry that fight through, especially with the next lethality purchase he just got.
Ooh,
good
that's
shove.
A good flick onto LWX. Karen's behind him. Immediate block from Crisp to keep
heal.
LWX up.
LWX used heal.
Oh, and the stun tags down. He's getting even more damage with the Pierce, but not enough to get the kill. But that's Kog'Maw pushed away.
You know, I don't want to be that guy and say if Bard had a Tempered Fate, there's a chance they were diving there. But if Bard had a Tempered Fate, there's a chance they were diving there.
I think you just contradicted yourself there a little bit.
I might have. Maybe that was on purpose, Tom.
Deliberate, really.
Oh, maybe.
I think. Goong, however, takes a big chunk out of the lethality from Coco and will complete his recall. With that, Talia back out of base and Choo Choo and Cat pulling away. Tier 1 is defended. And the game is stalled out a little bit more. So far, Dan, the only turrets that they've been able to take are on this bottom side of the map.
And they've been chipping away, though, and they're not far away from breaking these turrets. Karen's evolved his W, which is the one curious thing you'd maybe take away from this right now. At first, I thought he evolved his R just because that skin is very different. But yeah, he's gone for the W. He wants to slow everybody down, allow the team to get in front of him. Means he can flank, albeit not for an engage, just to slow them and pressure them from multiple different fronts. And whilst these turrets are starting to get low, it means those flanks are a possibility. It means that he can stand on the side as Choo Choo takes the turret.
And that's what we just saw in the mid lane when he got behind LWX.
Exactly. He's threatening a dive, and LWX with two fronts to be afraid of, and a turret that is super low. It gets really hard to make the decision of, let's actually defend this one, not let's leave this one, because we might just die.
We do see Sentinel now having spawned for Dan Gaming. Oh, Wise makes his way over the wall. The animation bug catches him out. Tempered Fate misses. But that's a big cooldown now gone. Sky's in the back line. He uses the ultimate to lock down Dan as Crisp gets in with a huge knockup, taking the journey. Goong tries to fire across, but he's being blocked by the Unbreakable. Finally, it's First Blood nearly 20 minutes in. They follow it up with a second.
And not just First Blood for Newbie, but so much more for them. The timing only really gets them the blue buff. 30 seconds on a Baron means that if Dan got that fight, then maybe they had control of the map, but things still work out super well for Newbie. LWX is doing his damage. Crisp with the engage as well, following up on the teleport from Sky. And Newbie follow up for their Maokai. They don't just leave him to the wolves stuck in a 1v5. Nobody is going to kill Maokai pretty much from this point onwards. And it all kicks off with Lies going in, just immediately removed. Lee Sin kicks him out. That's the Lee Sin kick gone, but Sky's here. Righteous Glory used. Look at that shield. That's pretty much just him by himself able to do that. And then Crisp comes in, follows it up. LWX free hitting, almost dies to Goong, surprisingly. just from a couple of pebbles being tossed at it, but you've got Coco's damage following that one up, and all of the tanks are the people that get low from Newbie, so that's the team fight execution that you expect from them.
Yeah, that threaded volley, nothing to shake a stick at. And with that team fight execution, Newbie now find themselves back on the map with about a 500 gold lead. They've got the only 2 kills in this game, and this has been the slowest in terms of kills paced game, but still very intelligent play between the two teams. 3 turrets to 3, 2 kills to 0. Even in gold, even in CS, just about everywhere. Despite a 40 CS lead for Lies.
We're taking baby steps, Dom.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're not doing any monumental leaps like Dan are known to do. Newbie usually rise to the challenge and will try and match what you're throwing at them, but in this instance, they are happy to play the game out a bit more reserved, just more slowly, and get those leads through the smaller details. Synergy between Dan, obviously lacking based off the fact that that ward's alive. I see you.
So low, yet so far. And now they're pushing back towards the mid lane with the Cloud Dragon. LWX has got a little bit more movement speed to try kiting this around.
You know what? That gets me as a support. You use your sweeper, and if they kill the ward, you both get gold. So it just makes sense that every ward that I reveal, someone else kills. But no one gets that.
It's math. Nobody likes to do math.
No, that's
Is
not even
60 greater than 30?
That's not even just math. You get this yellow thing that comes up on your screen that says you've achieved some gold, and the support can even pretend that he doesn't get any. And still, the greedy carries you'd expect would want that. Yet they can't do that part.
Some sort of disconnect is going on, as right now Dan Gaming, they're breaking down the top tier 1. Finally, the 4th turret of the game. Lies still holding on in the mid lane with his teleport, but it's already 2/3 of the cooldown ready for Sky. And Dan Gaming, I don't know what it is. At 20 minutes, they just move up around the Baron. They just have the 6th
It's set
sense.
place.
Yeah.
It's knowing how to play around it, practicing it all the time, and just being able to execute on what you're good at in a competitive game, which makes perfect sense. 20 minutes. They've rehearsed a million times over what a Baron play looks like, what vision around the objective looks like. Newbie have actually practiced and rehearsed how to respond to Dan Gaming, though.
We should hope.
Game number 1, they had a Talia wall that blocked them off, and they got the mid lane in a turret. And once again, Newbie, they push mid lane. They use that as the conduit to get straight towards the river, towards the Baron pit again, and to threaten objectives where Dan can't respond. This time around, though, it's not the Baron, though the vision and wards are still there for Newbie. It's going to be a 2-for-1.
I think the most commanding win we've seen over Dan was OMG, who played to Dan's aggressive, sort of decisive style by making them choose of 2 poor options every single time. We're not seeing Newbie go quite that far, but there are definitely some hints to that style of play.
I think my favorite one was the WE versus Dan set, where we just watched Dan lose the game in 50 minutes, literally not able to do a thing, because they're just not as good as WE. It's a really disheartening set to watch and cast. It was the slowest paced game of your life. And it was at that moment you're like, well,
I guess
Dan have a good strategy, but they're not WE.
Give him time. Give him time, Rusty.
That's
Even WE took time to become WE.
Yep. I'll give them time, Dom, but they don't have time. It's week 7. They need to start winning right now.
Certainly, if they want to try to make it to Worlds and beyond.
We'll just make playoffs.
First, they got to make playoffs, yeah. And that's going to have to start with a few wins here and there. I think we have to look towards them to take a win in this series so that they can at least be on the board in cross-conference play. Now, they're grouped up around that Baron. Once again, they've got control with vision. They're just harassing out from the sides. They've got Live split pushing bottom, teleport for both top laners.
Yeah, they've got things going, but they're also against 2 items completed on a Cogmore and a Knight's Vow completed from Swift that'll be on the Cogmore. You can see them connected now. And from this point, Dan can have all of the best things in the world, but if the team fight doesn't work, if the pick doesn't kill LWX, then they're probably still going to lose that team fight. The Cogmore is just so big.
This is exactly that conduit you were talking about. They see Dan back up towards the Baron. The moment they see Goong on the other side of the map, they immediately rush down that mid lane and get a lot of damage onto the tier 2.
And they clear the wave and stay here because they have vision of the Baron area. Yes, they know where Karen is as well. They know that they can win this trade if it's protracted and they continue sieging for an extended time. And really the trades here from Dan is where you're giving them no good option. They could go and get vision and secure perhaps even bait around the Baron area, but then they lose an inhibitor. So they have to respond, and they're stuck walking between Newbie's vision to do so.
That threat is becoming greater and greater as now the tier 2 is broken down. The harass is getting larger. You could saw how much damage 2 auto attacks from LWX was doing, not to mention the full lethality from Coco. If he manages to find the back line, it is going to hurt.
And there's no tanks from Dan, so it's just going to hurt in general. When you look at the armor that's been picked up by the team, you've got 2 Ninja Tabis, and you've got Azonia's Hourglass, and they're against a Jace with 2 lethality items. And, I mean, I look at that, I look back to Jace, look at Dan, and then I cover my eyes as I watch a Jace probably one-hit them.
I thought you were going to look back at your hand, and it's
I'm
now
not
diamond.
Old Spice.
Okay.
Not quite.
Tickets to that thing you love. Not quite finding those tickets here, especially as a member of the Dandom. But they've still got an opportunity. It's dead even in gold. It's dead even in turrets. 2 dragons to 1 with another ocean coming up soon. And slowly but surely, these vision opportunities are being throttled out by Newbie, but they can just waltz right back down towards that mid lane, or perhaps just force Dan Gaming away. That's also an option.
Yeah, they just walk in. Dan Gaming respects it and backs their heck up. They'll clear mid lane once again, and through this mid lane,
Whoa! Swift goes all the way across the map to try to find Goong. But a good flash keeps him safe.
Yeah, the respect flash from Goong, of course, it was slightly telegraphed from Swift this time around, but I tell you what, that was some smooth-looking Lee Sin as he traversed pretty much an entire screen worth of distance.
Ooh, they're leaping, trying to find an assassination onto him. They know he has no flash. Temper Fate
Ooh,
onto
LWX.
They pull him back in, and they're trying to kill the AD carry, but it's a flight. And now LWX tries to get back in. The Cataclysm drops down. They finally manage to kill him, but at the cost of their own AD carry and support.
Look at Goong.
Karin leaps in. Goong is firing these shots with the threaded volley, but he needs to reposition, chasing forward. It's now 3 members dead to the 3 members dead of the other side as Goong kites it out for Lies, and somehow this fight might go even. Yeah, Goong. Is he going to follow through? Oh, it just doesn't quite have enough.
He really can't because they're too tanky.
So much crowd control.
And everybody's dead, basically. Goong is the MVP of that team fight, though. His positioning was incredible, and he was able to freely hit the entire time. You had LWX just stuck, getting knocked around, having the worst experience ever. And that all starts because the Tempered Fate connects him. Again, we spoke towards this, an Ivern ban, almost acknowledging that a Cogmore was going to get locked in. That is such a big risk from Dan Gaming. But if you're able to play around that impeccably, then you will find these opportunities. And really good from Cat. Firstly, to be flashing forwards, going to Swift, and then suddenly changing and throwing your ultimate to LWX, who had no way out. Meanwhile, all of this time, Goong's able to free hit. He's having a hard time finding some unworked ground, but he's still throwing out everything and nobody's touching him. From this point, though, because they were able to trade, no one's killing Sky, and we just slowly realize that fact before we back away and no one gets anything.
That still seemed like it was Dan throwing everything they have in a 5v5 pick onto the jungler of Swift, still sticking to that game plan. If they can kill the jungler and win the ensuing fight, Baron is a huge objective for us. The Newbie are ready. They go even in the fight. They go 3-3.
Yeah, that was an easy one, though. Swift had just tried to engage onto Goong, and he had no flash. He had no kick.
We saw it, yeah.
Like, he was a very easy target to pick off. And right now, you're looking at no summoner spells available for pretty much both of these teams across the board. You're looking at a 5v5 with nothing to get them out, so the better engage wins. And Dan have a decent amount of it possible. Newbie won it, though.
Righteous glory. And the Cat's leaping from the ground. They've found the support all alone. And Cat gets pulled out with a quick save.
You can't quite kick that one, Swift, but Newbie, they at least forced the last remnants of ultimates and summoners that are going to exist. And now they kick off the Baron. Numbers advantages there, but Dan Gaming, no.
They certainly do. Cat's on the side. Choo-Choo steps forward. Lies has got the Cataclysm. LWX makes a telegraphed play as he leaps in. Goong with the Zhongyas stalls it out.
Lies.
He's got no flash. Barrier to try to stall it out. Lies dies in the back as Goong will still survive. He's firing. And finally drops to Sky as Choo-Choo. He's stacking up so many Ren stacks, but he can't do anything to the Maokai. There's no answer. The rest of his team is dead. He rends too soon. He rends too soon, and he ends too soon. The ace for Newbie.
That's just kind of funny to watch a Kalista have so many spears inside of Maokai, and he just gets half health at best.
Yeah.
Auto attacks, 500 health back. He's, that was too easy. It's another day in the park for Sky as Newbie win the team fight in the battle of the frontliners. who can last the longest? The answer is always Maokai. That might actually be game here, Dom, for Newbie.
They're racing in. Swift is tanking a few hits. The minions crash as Sky doesn't even care about the Nexus turret. He gets healed up. They take the first. They take the second. And they take the series. Newbie 2-1 over Dan Gaming.
And it all came down to a team fight where Newbie are the initiators of the Baron. They wanted the fight to happen, not the Baron to be killed. And you know, if you hit that purple worm, you're attracting a Dan Gaming to the pit. There's no